Hello and welcome. This is Jim Coppin with Branken Technical College. This video is about just kind of wanted to go through creating your own personal web portfolio. I know that we had an assignment as part of the book chapters for the HTML book, but you know, in retrospect, since this is kind of a new book that we used, kind of when we got to the end of creating that portfolio that the book kind of walked you through, I think it's kind of it's lacking in a lot of areas, and I know we could do a lot better than that, and I think so. I think it's really important for you to kind of spend some time creating a personal web portfolio that's a little more dynamic, a little more professional looking. So just to kind of look at the, this is kind of from the book chapter assignment. And, this here, just kind of this, let me see, maybe I've got this a little bit magnified. Let me get this back to 100%. So at least something's showing. So, kind of the navigation, there's no navigation up top here. The navigation's down here. When you click on things, you lose the navigation and everything. It just keeps on going back up to this photo. Not that some little changes can be made here and there, okay? And maybe there's some things here that you like that you kind of want to use, and but I think it's worth really spending the time, especially since you've all done some Bootstrap stuff and some other technologies that maybe be better off to start from scratch and go ahead and do a personal web portfolio. So that's what we actually used to do prior to this book. We didn't work on a personal web portfolio until a little bit later. After about halfway through, we started working on that, and I think that that's a better option for us going forward here. Okay. So, it's important, and you have to think this is something that's going to evolve through your time through the AWD program, the Application Web Development Program. So this is something you're going to kind of get a good foundation and, keep building it and adding things to it. Okay. So first, kind of wanted to go through a lot of this just to make sure you understand what needs to be done here, because some of the stuff you might not have done a lot of, even creating a new GitHub repository. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with that. Let's create a new public repository. So let me show you how to do that. Now, I don't know if how many of you regularly go out to your online GitHub repository, because obviously you can be checking things in and with GitHub Desktop and not go there very much, but to kind of create a new repository, best is to go out to the online, go to GitHub Online to do that. Okay, and so if you have that link to where your GitHub repository online is, go to there. Another way to get there, just in case. So if you come to your GitHub Desktop and go here up to repository, you can click View on GitHub. Okay. And that will go to, your basically the one for the course here. Okay. And then you can come up here on the right hand side, up here at the top, on the right hand side, and click your little profile here. Go down to repositories, click on repositories. Okay. And then here, we want to just go ahead and create a new repository. Obviously, I have like a web portfolio here. So, I'm probably going to call mine something different, name mine something different. So you could call it whatever you want, web portfolio. I'm going to call mine just my portfolio here. Okay. So you want to go ahead and click the new button here. And for you, maybe by default, I'm not sure because I have other options here because of ranking, but make sure by default you might just have yours here. If not, you need to select it. And I'm just calling mine my portfolio. You can call it web portfolio, whatever. Just make sure I wouldn't put any spaces in there. Bad idea, spaces. So Make sure you don't have any spaces in there. And then, you know, I'm just going to go ahead and put a little description in here. And we want to make sure it's public, okay? Because what we're going to be doing here, probably our main purpose in making this public, is we want to be able to make sure that we can have this as a live site, okay? And what we'll be using is GitHub Pages to make this a live site, okay? And we'll be doing that here in a little bit once we get everything in order. I'm just going to go ahead and add a license here just so we have a little bit of something. I'm going to just do an MIT license. You can also have a README and so forth here, which is usually a good idea as well. But I just want to make sure that we have something because we're kind of creating a blank a blank repository, so kind of want to make sure something's in there. Not that it matters, but so we're just going to have an MIT license in there. We're going to go ahead and create repository. Okay, so now we have this repository called My Portfolio. Okay, if you've already named something before, just kind of letting you know, if you have a name already, you can't use that name again, right? So you'd have to create a new name. But so here's My Portfolio. And so now let's go ahead and bring that in on our computer, right? So if we go to our GitHub desktop here, we can go ahead and clone the repository. So first, you kind of really want to decide where you want to put this. You don't want this to be part of your existing work. Okay, this is going to be outside of that. And when I say part of your existing work, I mean on your computer, right? Kind of want to have it a separate location. So you really need to decide where you want this to be. But go down here on File, Clone Repository. Okay, we're going to choose URL, and I forgot to do something here. I apologize. Here, let me cancel this real quick. So what we wanted to go ahead and do here is come over here. Also, let's see if this will work. I have another tool on my machine, and I think that it wants to open it in something else. So that won't work for me. It might work for you, but I'll show you another way as well. So you can try to open with GitHub Desktop and see how that goes. It's trying to open it with another tool for me. If not, you can go ahead and just grab like the URL to it, right? So you've got these different options here, but you want to make sure you're on HTTPS, and you can just copy this to the clipboard. Okay. And let's go back to our GitHub desktop here. And now let's go up to File, Clone Repository. Okay. We want to make sure we have URL here, and then you can just paste it in there. Okay. Paste it in there. I'm just doing Control V there to paste it. So here you want to select your repository. It's already kind of, it'll create one. And if that's fine for you, then that's fine. It'll create one based on the name of your repository. And if you're happy with that, you can go ahead and use that. So I'm just going to go ahead and click clone here. And now you're in here. It's saying 0 changes. Obviously, you haven't done anything here. You can go ahead and click open in Visual Studio Code now. And so remember, I created a license out there. So this is your repository. This is the code that's going to be pulled in, which is just a license. So that's our first step. Okay, let's go back to our web portfolio document. Helps if I pull up the right thing here. All right, let me. I will leave this up because I might need to look at this later. All right. So back here, so the next thing, email and LinkedIn account. I think it's a very good idea to create a separate email account just for your professional stuff, for for creating a LinkedIn account, and just for your career things when you'll send emails to different people, and having an email on your resume and that. It's kind of a good idea to have a separate run just for your career related stuff. So I suggest you create, obviously it's optional, but I suggest you create a separate email account. You just create a new Gmail account or whatever. Just think about what you're calling it. Make sure it's not something unprofessional. Whatever you use to, the name you give your email account. Also, it's very important to create a LinkedIn account. LinkedIn's very useful for collaborating, and just getting a professional type of getting some professional exposure. Okay, so I would go ahead and create a LinkedIn account as well. Okay, the next thing we want to do is figure out what we're going to do, how we're going to build this thing. Okay, so got a few different options here, and you can come up with your own option as well. But so basically, option one would be just basically to create your own from scratch, utilizing the different technologies we've learned: HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and Bootstrap. Okay. Option two is to use a Bootstrap portfolio template. Here's a couple of different sites you can choose from here. So I think what I'll do is just go ahead and show you how we can do this. So let's go ahead and grab this Bootstrap portfolio template. And I'm just going to guess let's see which one I'm going to grab. The challenge with using these, they're kind of already pre-made. So you're going to have to, either way, no matter probably what you do, you're going to have to do a lot of editing. Let me go ahead and grab, let's just go ahead and grab this one. So I'm going to click, let's just look at it. Live demo. This is probably the easiest way. And then here, this is what this is going to look like. You've got your resume, services, portfolio. So some of the stuff you're going to have to kind of clean up and get rid of, and rename it based on what we're doing, which is somewhat similar, but not exactly. So we're going to go ahead and click this download here. And if you come over here, it's always going to try to get you to pay for some things, right? So your other option is, and obviously if there's something you really like and you want to just buy one, that's fine. $14 for one site, right? $29 for unlimited. But if you just want to do the free one, you can do the free one here. Okay. The free one is going to have some credit links and some certain things on there. Okay. And there are some restrictions, but for the most part, it still should be good for our purposes. So here you can just go ahead and click free download, and it will go ahead and create a zip file. And so it's going to go to whatever's by default. For me, it's going to be downloads. And I'm just going to go ahead right now here, and I'm just going to go ahead and extract this. And just extracted it right here. And then what I'm going to do here, I don't want this extra folder. Okay, so what I'm going to come in here, and I'm just going to go into the folder that's here. I'm going to grab all of this. And I'll show you why I kind of really don't want the extra folder here once we get it out there on GitHub. Okay, so I just grabbed all that, and then I'm going to go to back to our, let me close this out. Let's go back to our Visual Studio Code. And sometimes it's easier just to go and view this in, here, let me do this real quick. What's going on here? So I'm going to go ahead and open this folder. I'm kind of wondering why. Most of the time I right click here, I should see reveal in the thing. And maybe it's because I don't have any files in there and license isn't doing it. I'm not sure on that. So I'm just going to go to it. So my portfolio here, and I'm just going to go ahead and paste under my portfolio. I'm just going to go ahead and paste all these files down here. And so these were all of the files that came from that zip file. And so there you go. And so let's just bring this up here. Probably now I can, I don't know why it's not, I lost that reveal in File Explorer. I don't know why. Okay. But so here, let's go ahead and just open up the index.html. And one thing that's going to be very important, because we want to make this live on GitHub and on GitHub called GitHub.io. I'll show you that. It's basically GitHub pages. And to make it live, you have to make sure you have an index.html, okay? And we do here. So I'm just going to open this up, and let's go ahead and view this just to make sure it looks good. Open with Live Server. So then here's your site, right? The icon's this little Bootstrap icon. We're going to actually, we should, you know, replace this amongst other things, right? So you're going to have to make a lot of, you know, no matter what, you're going to make changes, okay? You're going to have to make changes. This may not be the best choice for things we're doing, right? This is a different kind of a portfolio, but this is just one option. We're going to look at some others as well. But I just want to go ahead and kind of show you how to get this out there on GitHub, and so it can be viewed live, okay? If you decided to do one of the templates, okay? I just grabbed kind of the first one. You probably should look at something that's a little more geared to web development and so forth, okay? But that is working. And so the next thing I wanted to do is show you about the let me just show you about the icons, put it out there, then we're going to come back and look at those other options. Okay, so best for you to create some kind of an icon so that, you know, when you display when you see the website, you really don't want just the default one, and you don't want to have what they already have, like that B thing. So, you know, we kind of want to get rid of these icons here. We don't want that, okay? So what we're going to do is, first here, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go to Paint. There's different ways to create like a favicon, but I'm just going to go to Paint. This is one way, and this is something that I'm probably not the best at. I know I'm not the best at. Not probably, I know. So here, I'm going to make this a little bigger. So favicons, if you kind of remember, you do different sizes, like 16 by 16 pixels. I mean, that's small, right? But let's do, we can do 3 different ones, and I can do it real fast once you get one done. We'll do one 16 by 16, one 32 by 32, another 48 by 48. So let's just do the biggest one first. It makes it easier. And we can actually even make it larger than that as well. And let's do. So, and I'm just using Microsoft Paint here. If you have something else, that's fine. If you have Paint, it's kind of one way to do that. Let's actually make this bigger. Let's make this like just a little bigger there. Okay, so I'm gonna do kind of something simple where I'm just gonna kind of do my initials here. All right. You probably can barely see this. Maybe let's make it a little bigger. I'll tell you what, I'll just magnify it. Let me just magnify it once I get this kind of. you got to be careful if you got like if you magnify it too much, moving these things around, especially when you start trying to add these text boxes and stuff, it can kind of mess things up a little bit, or at least I have a challenge with it. So here's a text box. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a font. It's up to you, but if you know some things, some of the fonts just don't look good when you create smaller little pixels. So I'm going to do one of these. And what I think I'm also going to do here is go on the selection. I'm going to do transparent selection. We'll see if that works all right. So we'll just leave this white like that. And here I got this, what, about a 10? Let's see. So I'm just going to put my initials. And then obviously we can make this bigger. I'm going to try to get this as big as I can here. Let's see. Okay, I think that's 2. Maybe about like 32 or something. Nope, how about 30? There we go. 30 looks pretty good. I know, you're going to see some distortion. That's common. Actually, let me fix this up a little bit, I think. So let me just hit I'm going to hit Control Z, so it'll kind of actually go backwards. And I'm going to kind of do this a little bit again. And that's see how it makes this big old box here? That's because I got this thing too big, and so it's better off to get this smaller and get this and you all might be a lot better at this than me. And I don't know why it does that thing. I'm just going to try to get this in the middle here. That looks a lot better than it did before. Okay. Maybe I could change this color to something else, maybe. Okay, I'll try to do just something that's going to stand out a little more for us. I think I did transparent selection. We'll just see how this works. All right. So our size here is 64 by 64. Okay. Now I think the best way I've found to do this is using this resize and skew. Otherwise, it kind of causes problems. You kind of lose part of your initials and stuff. So here I'm going to do horizontal. At least it's the same number here. If for some reason it's not, you'll have to click this to do that, because if it's not the same size when you change this number, we're going to do what, 48, I think. We're going to do a 48, 40, 48. If for some reason you had one side, the length greater than the width, When you change it, it's going to change this correspondingly so that it would still be kind of in sync. And if for some reason that's the case, and you need to kind of click this and just make sure they're both the same. So in this case, we're fine though. So 48, we're doing pixels, not percentages. So that would help if I did that correctly. We're doing pixels, so 48 by 48. We're gonna hit OK. So that's gonna be 48 by 48, and I'm gonna do File, Save As, PNG, and I'm just gonna call this JK, and I'm gonna do, what was this, 48 by 48. Okay, I'm going to save this. Then I'm going to go ahead and do this again. And I'm going to do a 32 by 32. Okay. And then I'm going to do File, Save As. And I am going to do 32 by 32. You don't have to put it this way. I'm just this way, since it's part of the name, I'll remember which one it is. And then one more. I'm going to change this to 16 by 16. Okay. And I'm going to do a Save As. And here I'm going to change this to 16 by 16. Yes, because I probably already have one out there from before. So, all right. For you, you probably shouldn't get that pop-up. All right, so there's that. Now let's go ahead and grab those real quick here. And so I got these three. I probably could just actually move these. I could drag these over to our Visual Studio Code. I want to go under Assets, Images, and there you go. I'll leave these, but might as well, actually you should probably just delete these, the Apple one, the Favicon, whatever. So got these three now, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and drop these in our HTML here. So we have these favicons here, and then I'll just I just cut and paste it for something I had. I'll have to change these names. And we're going what? Assets, image, and I'm going to do the 16 by 16. And then here I'm going to do the same thing. Image 32 by 32. And I'll go ahead and do that one here. We'll save this. And then I'm going to open with Live Server. And now we've got the little JK. I'm sure you can do a better job than me. You probably can barely even see it on yours. And then if I actually drag this drag the site here just on like my bar so that you can see that you still got the little icon here. All right. Now, one thing you want to make sure, besides other things, you want to make sure you have this title to be reflective of, this is the template name and everything. So you don't want that. You want to have your title being, for me, your name, So yeah, so you got your name there. Simple stuff, but like I said, you're going to have to change a lot of other things. So just for now, I'm just kind of showing you one way. So let's just say, and then you come in here, you're going to make changes. You're going to have to make a lot of changes because we got different, uh, we have different headings and stuff, different areas that we're going to be adding. Um, but let me show you now that we have that, how this can kind of work for us. So this is my portfolio. Here's all the things we have here. Okay, and I am going to do commit web portfolio. I'm going to commit all of these to the main. Okay, and you push origin. Okay. And then we want to view this on GitHub. And so then here is all of our different things. The important thing is to make sure that you've got index.html, because this is what's going to be used as the starting spot, the starting place for GitHub pages to make this live. Okay. So let me show you next what we do to do that, okay? So now that you've got a public, you should have settings here, okay? Now one thing is, like, if you went and looked at your repository that we use for our class, you're not allowed to change your settings and stuff. But since you created a new repository, you should have your settings here. This was kind of a problem before when it's because GitHub changed some things. Actually, it was like August, beginning of August, and then when our class started, for this fall, things that we used to be able to do, we couldn't do anymore. So if you come to settings for your repository you created, go over here to pages, okay, and then here we want to deploy from a branch, okay. There's two options. GitHub Actions or deploy from a branch. We want to make sure it's deploy from a branch. And then in here, we want to choose. And sometimes you have to get this to work though, it's kind of a tricky thing. Sometimes it's really best to like change this, right, to none and then back to main, so that you can actually save this. I don't know why it's doing that. Actually, I think what we have to do is here save, like that. And then you need to come back here and click main. It depends on where yours is at. It's always been kind of funky like this. But you want to make sure this is main and hit save. And what you'll see up here is it's going to work on building your thing. Your GitHub page is currently being built from the main branch. Okay. So this is something you just kind of have to wait. Sometimes this can be done in a minute or two. Sometimes it could be several minutes. I've seen at times being a lot longer than that. There's probably multiple factors involved in that. It's much more than what you're doing. It's because of probably scheduled tasks that are going on. Because, there are, millions and millions of repositories. And so we're doing a lot of free stuff. We probably don't have precedence. As opposed to some people who are paying for GitHub. So you can wait for a little bit. I'm going to just pause it for a minute. And I'm going to hit refresh a few times. It's refresh up here. Once it is, it'll say that it's been pushed. It won't do it automatically. You kind of have to hit refresh. So you kind of wait for a little bit and hit refresh and see if it comes up. I'm just going to pause here. And I'll be hitting refresh a few times until I see it pop up that it's good, and then I'll go ahead and continue with the video here. Okay, I probably should have just refreshed it, because once I refreshed it the first time, it was good. So here is your live site. Okay, here's my live site, I guess I should say, of the thing that we just created. So if I click on here, if you'll see the URL. The URL is a little different than the GitHub URL. It's github.io, but this is the portfolio. Okay, and you can even see that it's got the little icon that we created here, there. Got the icon that, well, this is the stuff that's on my machine, but this is the one that's live. So what you're going to need to do is send me the link to this when you do create yours. Okay, but obviously we're just doing the template one. I'm going to go ahead and show you some other options, okay, as well, and I'm going to show you how you can also add some other things to this besides just your portfolio. Just the main page. You know, you may want to add the Belleville Running Club or something else, okay? And I'm going to show you how you can also have that out here as well, okay? But this is the live version of this. And this is kind of why I didn't want those extra folders, because every time if you had an extra folder, you would have to have that folder name here after this. And, you know, it can get kind of, it's a lot cleaner just having this simple little thing since it's at the root. Okay, you got your index.html in my portfolio, then that's all you have to do, because this is reading that index.html, right? So there's this. Okay, so let me show you how you can get some things out of here. So let's go back to our Visual Studio Code here. So let's say you have some other things. Let's make this a little smaller. So I think it's a good idea to keep some things separated. Now, because you know you've got all your code in your repository for your that you've done as part of this course. You know, you have your repository for this course, but and right now it's not going to be available for everyone to view. And you may not want that. What I would do is keep your stuff, because what you're going to have eventually is you're going to have some featured projects and things that you're going to want to display. And maybe you keep that all within this web portfolio. So you just copy some things over here, okay? So what I'm going to go ahead and do is, let's just say the Belleville Running Club, okay? So down here, what you can do is create a new folder. Okay, and I'm going to call this Belleville Running Club. Okay, and what I'm going to go ahead and do, now it's letting me reveal this in File Explorer. So let's go ahead and do that. And here's our Belleville Running Club. So I'm going to go to so you can go wherever you had your Belleville Running Club code. I've got some different things open here. So I'm just going to grab this student's one. So I'm going to copy these. We don't need the VS Code one, right? So we just got our index.html, very important, and an images folder for the Belleville Running Club for this assignment. I'm just going to copy this, okay? And I'm going to drop this in my portfolio, that new folder I created, Belleville Running Club. And I'm going to drop that right in here, okay? And so then it'll show up in here as well. You could drag it in here. Sometimes, I don't know, it seems sometimes a lot easier just to do it within the folder structures. So here's that. So if I open up this one, let me close this other. And there's our Belleville Running Club. And if I open this in Live Server, just make sure it comes up. Yep, it comes up. And here's all the stuff for that one. Okay. So now what we can go ahead and do, this is just like some options for you to copy some other stuff over. So you'll have that live so you can link to these other things, right? So you can link to these other things from your sorry, close the other one. But some different things within your portfolio, you're going to want to link to some examples, right? Some live examples is going to be important. At least the Belleville Running Club, something that you can put out there and be a good thing. And I'll show you some assignments. We could do that as well. Okay. But so for this, so back to our Belleville Running Club, we've got this over here in our folder. Important thing is the index.html. Now, if we go to GitHub Desktop here, so here's our Belleville Running Club stuff. Okay. And so I'm going to do what? I'm going to commit this. And we'll go push to origin. And the good thing here on this, now your assignment you've probably, by the time you start doing this web portfolio, you probably already did the React 3 thing. You have to do special stuff to push that stuff out to GitHub to make that live. And so you probably want to do those kind of assignments as separate repositories, okay? But here for this my portfolio and for some of these past work that are just pure HTML, the React stuff's a little different. And probably for those, it might be best to create a separate repository for each of those React assignments if you want those to be live, okay? Just kind of want to point that out since we're here. But we've already got this out here. Belleville Running Club's out here now. And if you kind of look down here, this deployment stuff, it should automatically start deploying this. Let me refresh this. I probably went out there really quick, but let's see what's going on here. So this just says now. So if I click this, remember before we were over here at settings, you can do the same thing and get to this different ways. Let me show you that real quick. Setting pages, here's your link, okay? But also if you just go back to your main portfolio, you can always just click up here, my portfolio, web portfolio. You also have this, you can click on this as well. Two different ways to get there, okay? Obviously you can see by clicking that, it'll show you what happened. This was our first one that we did just 10 minutes ago. This one automatically, we don't have to do this again. So when you dump some new code out there, it'll automatically redeploy it, okay? It's redeploying it. As I mentioned, github.com, and here it's actually a different site, right? It's GitHub's live site for GitHub called GitHub.io. So it's actually deploying it out there, okay? So you still got your My Portfolio, okay? You still got your My Portfolio. But if you go ahead and put the, what was our, let me go back here for a second. Apologize. So what do we call this? Yeah, okay. So we call this Belleville Running Club. And then, so if I go back to our link here, so what I can do here, if I just put the folder name here, okay, what this is going to do, it's going to go look into Belleville Running Club, and it's going to say, do I have an index.html? If I do, then display it, okay? So I'm going to click on that, and there you go. So now you've got Belleville Running Club also as a, as a live site, right? It's a live site. You could send this to anyone. They could pull this up, okay? And another thing is, so what you're going to want to do is within your web portfolio, copy this URL, and then you can have a link to it within your web portfolio. So when they click it directly, it'll go directly to here. Obviously, you're not going to be wanting to cut and paste, this stuff in a URL all the time, right? We're just doing this so you can see it. But once you get your web portfolio in order, you can have links there, and you just copy this link, okay? And I'm just showing you how this comes about, right? It's because it's in because you have a Belleville Running Club a Belleville Running Club folder inside your portfolio folder. So it will go to that path and it'll say, hey, do I have an index.html? If I do, display it. And that's what it's doing here. You don't have to have index.html. You just use this right here. You just copy this and it's there, right? And if you forget how to do this, right, you can just go back to your, now just remember, this is the IO thing. This is not the repository. So you're going to have to also send me this as well, both, but I'll mention that in the assignment. So this is what you do. You got my portfolio, and you're going to have to make sure that because just clicking this is just going to your code, right? This is just going to your code. It's not going to your thing. So you have to make sure that you go through to your GitHub pages down here and add this folder, right? Like I showed you a couple times here. And it would help if I had the right thing there. Okay. So we have those two things. So let me show you something else we can do. Some of your other assignments, kind of the same concept now. Okay. So we have that. So let's just say that you really liked build a pizza. Okay. Let's do build a pizza. And so for that, you can go ahead and, so we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to do a new folder. We'll do build a pizza. Okay. And that was that assignment, that chapter 8 assignment. So let me go find where I've got that. So yeah, we will have to do something different for that. Okay. Let me show you something here. Okay, that's not doing what I wanted to do. All right. So here we've got, you got a bunch of images, everything stuck in here, which is never a good idea, right? You should have actually an images folder. That's, this is kind of on the book, right? Here we got, our web portfolio, we got assets and stuff. You should have images folder, right? This is not best practice, but, we're going to grab this anyhow. The important thing is if you look in here, there's no index.html, okay? So you always have to remember that index.html is very important, okay? Because that's what it's going to look for to be able to display that on the live site. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to rename this. So first what we're doing is I'm going to this, the project directory we had for this. I'm just going to grab all of these. Obviously be a good idea to fix that up and just create an images folder because it's kind of messy, but we're not going to do that. Let's reveal this in File Explorer. And I'm going to paste everything there. Okay. And then what we're going to have to do on this one, I'm just going to have to change this name of this project to index.html. Okay. So let me pull this one up. Let's close these. Let's make sure, we'll take a look at this, make sure it works in live server. Yep, looks good. Is everything working? Yeah. Add to cart. Okay, good. So that's working. So now what we can do is go back. We've got it in a folder called Build a Pizza. Same thing like what we did for Belleville Running Club. We've got Build a Pizza. We've got an index.html. We're good there. And then, so I'm going to go back to GitHub Desktop here. And we're going to go ahead and commit build a pizza We'll commit those files, push origin, view on GitHub, build a pizza. If I hit refresh here, let's see what it's doing. It hasn't started yet. There's a delay. Everything's not instantaneous. It's going to, once it kind of is all there, it takes a minute or so, it'll start doing something, because this is the old one. If I hit this, sometimes it'll actually, you'll see it do a little circle thing here when it's running that. Sometimes it, see, right there, you got that little circle thing. So it's kind of, it's right now it's deploying that. It's deploying Build a Pizza part of your portfolio here. Okay. So I don't know if it'll automatically stop or you have to refresh to see it change. But I'm going to pause the video just for a minute. Okay, let me refresh here. So there it is, 1 minute ago. So yeah, you have to refresh to see that. Otherwise, the other option is if it's sitting there spinning, you can actually come in here and you could see that it completed. Okay. So same thing here. We go to our My Portfolio, and we have to put in that folder name. And so there's Build Our Pizza, right? It's a live site right now, all right? Make sure everything's working, looks good. So, you know, them are some other things, you know, if you're, you know, and anything that you like that we kind of worked on, being either the JavaScript stuff or the HTML stuff, if you like the dog grooming or that, same concept. Just remember, like I said, whatever folder you're exposing, so to speak, you need to make sure you have an index.html, and you're not going to be able to have more than one index.html per folder, right? Because it'd be a duplicate file. So you'll have to create a new folder, and obviously, just for organization point of view, it's best to have folders for each thing you have there. All right. So that's one. That's a way for you to get everything out there. So you can have some examples, and you can also, you know, you can link to your code base as well, and then link to a live site, right? So let's see, what did we do here? We did a lot of stuff, didn't we? Went through a lot of stuff there. So we did the favicon thing, which was down here, and kind of showed you how to put. So, but that was just kind of the, so like, you know, the first option was obviously to create something from scratch if you want to create the site from scratch, right? Just a web portfolio. Second option was using the template. The third option, okay, would be doing this. Is called Vercel. This is an AI tool that you could use, okay? Let's go check that out. So what you'll have to do is here, I'm already logged in, I believe. Yeah, I'm already logged in, but this is offered through a company called Vercel. It's called V0.app, okay? And the name of the company is Vercel, like I said. And when you do log in, you'll have to create an account. And then when you log in, it'll send you a code so you can get in, okay? I did a couple different ones earlier. Hopefully I don't know what the limit is, but hopefully I'm to unlock all the features. Hopefully I'm still good with that. But here, the important thing about using this kind of a tool, this is going to create some code generation. So this will actually create some things a little more specific for our needs, which is good. The thing to keep in mind though is, you know, it's going to create. If you don't tell it exactly what to create, it's going to create. It's going to do what it wants to do, and I think it's important for you when using these kind of tools is to create something that you're going to be able to edit and change and be able to stick with, because it might create some different technologies that you're not comfortable or have not used. By default, it's usually going to create some React stuff. Okay. Besides just React, it'll use, instead of Bootstrap, it'll use like Tailwinds, which is another library for CSS. Instead of JavaScript, they'll use what's called TypeScript. So all of these things you haven't had some experiences with, and if you really want to go for it, that's fine. But just kind of a warning, you need to be able to change things and edit things, right? Because this is just going to create some template. It's going to create, and using this, it's actually going to create a template that's going to be a lot closer to what we're going to be doing. Okay. But what I did was I created kind of a prompt that kind of tells it only do HTML, CSS, and Bootstrap. Plus, I'm giving it a list of all the different sections we want. So this will create something a lot closer to what we want. Okay. So if I go back here, I don't know if I have a link. Okay, yes, I did. And I know this probably doesn't look pretty, but here's kind of a prompt that you can cut and paste and put in here. Okay. It's pretty substantial, so I'm just going to take all of this. I'm going to copy all of this. And let's close some of this stuff up. Where are we at here? Yeah, let's just close these others. All right. So here I'm just going to do a Control V here and paste this in here. Make sure I got everything. So I'm telling it I just want only HTML, CSS, and Bootstrap 5, right? Otherwise, it's and I'm okay if you want to do the React stuff because we're already doing React, but it's going to make things a little more complicated, and so I was trying to keep things pretty basic and things that you're going to be very comfortable and feel good about getting this assignment done, before the end of this course, right? So just HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, and I have all the different sections that are part of the assignment, okay? So this should create something. And every time if you run this multiple times, it's going to create something different every time you run it, all right? So that's another thing. And you can always add follow-up questions here, all right? To if you don't like it, you can change some things along the way. You can preview it, okay? So for now, I'm gonna let this run for a little bit. It takes a little bit for it to create everything, okay? It is going to create basically one file, an index.html file with everything in it, okay? And then it's a place for you to start. Then if you want to add other things such as images and that, you probably could create an images directory and everything else. But this is just going to create one file for this whole site, okay? It kind of keeps I kind of wanted to have this, make it kind of simple from the beginning. So I'm going to pause the video here for just a little bit. Okay, so it created this site, and just put a fake name in here and whatever. Application web developer, full stack developer, explore my work, right? So, but it has all the different sections that we kind of talked about me, resume, the things that we kind of asked for here. Obviously, no matter what you do here, you're going to have to edit things. Okay, you're going to have to edit things. If you use the template, you create something from scratch. It's going to still take some work, right? So this is a preview of this. Obviously it's Bootstrap, so it's kind of a mobile first type thing, right? But these are all the different sections it asks for. Where the templates are not going to have these exact sections, you're going to have to, if you use a template, you're going to have to create these, which ain't a big deal. But just no matter what, you're going to have to do some work, right? So here's the index.html, all right? And so if we click on that, and here, back to this, I kind of mentioned So ask a follow-up question. If, there's some things here you want to play and tweak and say, I want you to change this or change that. It can do that. Otherwise, you just go in here and rip some things out. Obviously, it's just putting some sample portfolio, things here. You're going to replace this maybe with, Belleville Running Club here, right? You probably don't want to do that here. You do that yourself when you bring it in to Visual Studio Code, right? But, it has these different things, and you can talk about some challenges, whatever. Like live demo, that's where you would have, within your, within the HTML, when you edit it, you can have a link to, say, the Belleville Running Club here, the live website, and then here you're going to have you can have a link to your GitHub repository for the Belleville Running Club, right? All right. So here, to get this, you click on this index.html. Okay. Otherwise, if you create something here, we're creating a one page. I kind of force this to do just one page. If you don't, otherwise, it's going to actually create a zip file. All right. So you'll have to kind of download a zip file. In this case, you're going to just download this index.html. So you come over here, all the way over here to the right. Okay. There's this little download. Click on download here. It's going to ask you the name. And so there it is. And I'm just going to copy this here. And you're probably not going to want to, we already kind of did this little template thing. You're not going to do one of everything, huh? You just kind of have to make your decision which one you're going to do, okay? But for us, I'm going to just leave the template thing here, and I'm going to do, call it, I don't know, Portfolio 2. Okay, but you're really going to have to decide what you're going to do to create it, right? I was just showing you an example of using the template, but you're going to have to make your decision. You're going to use the template. You're going to use Vercel to do it. You want to create it from scratch. Which option, right? So in here, I want to reveal this in File Explorer. And then I'm just going to unpaste my document here. Now, even though this says, this index has got this number, you're going to have to get rid of that number too. It's got to be exactly index.html. The reason it did that is because I've got other ones that I've called the same thing, and it automatically changes the name, right? But, make sure you do that right. So let's just go ahead and look at this real quick. Open a live server. Here we go. Here's all the different ones that kind of ask you for. Like, obviously, you're going to have to put your own image in here. It's putting a lot of the stuff that, we haven't done SQL yet, but you'll be doing SQL before you know it. You'll learn that a little bit in the C#. If you haven't done the C# course, you'll be learning that. I think there's only one student that's in our course that's already done C#. Everybody else is new, but you'll be doing, and you're going to have other stuff besides this SQL here. You'll have C#, you'll have .NET, you'll have some other things to put in here as well. We'll be doing the MERN stack, which is Mongo, Express, React, Node. That'll be later the second year. But here's the different things. This is a lot closer, okay? But what you're going to want to make sure you do is you're going to have to clean this up. We want a portfolio that's you right now and is relevant. You don't want a bunch of boilerplate code that doesn't go to anything, right? So you'll have to change things. You have to remove things. Just make sure it's real, a real web portfolio that reflects, where you're at right now. Okay. I mentioned in my thing not to have a phone number. Location's fine. I wouldn't have an address. I've just had students that had, their full address, their birth date, I don't know. I'm a little more protective than that. More, I guess, security conscious. You know, I say for a public site, you don't need to have your personal, I wouldn't have your personal phone number on there. All it takes is one person to, you know, want to bug you to death. An email, that's a different thing. And that's why I also said, an email, it's probably best to just, create one for your career stuff. And then if something goes wrong and you start getting a bunch of spam or something, you can change it on your career related stuff. So that way it's not everything. If you got a personal one, usually your personal one you've probably been using for quite a long time, you know, uh, you know, if you get that hosed up, that if you get problems with that, then, you probably have to change more things. But, I create one for your career site. I would not do a phone number. So that's something I would remove. All right. But like I said, this kind of has all the stuff that we're really looking for. That's what's kind of nice about creating it this way. Okay. All right. So just for fun here, why not? Since we've done this a few times, let's just go put this out here. We just only got one file. That makes things easier. And that, we'll push origin. View on GitHub. There's portfolio 2. See how quickly this hasn't started yet. I kind of really don't like all this stuff here as well, but that's okay. I mean, otherwise you'd have to change a lot of links. This is the template stuff. All right, let's just make sure this works. Just practice, and seeing it multiple times is always a good thing. Okay. So let's go back to our site. And now if we go to this other one, and like I said, you're not going to have 2 of these. I'm just doing this to demonstration purposes. So here's the other one, right? So everything's live now. That's how you do that, right? And then obviously, like I said, this is where like live demo here. Maybe you change this to Belleville Running Club, and you put some a description about that. This was a midterm assignment, blah blah blah, right? Pretty much these are the technologies you kind of used in that, so that's kind of most stays the same there, right? And then whatever you want to put for challenge here. Then, but you'd have a link to your live site, and also put a link to where the code is, right? So, all right. So we already did Favicon. There's other options for that as well. There's what's that called? I already have a thing open here. Let me see. They do have create an icon, and I was playing with this, and maybe it will. The thing I don't like about this is, so you can create an icon here, but they're always trying to get you to buy things. So you'll find something you like, and to actually use it, you're gonna have to buy it. You know what I mean? So you could try to create something by yourself. If you start choosing a lot of things here, these better design things, if you're interested, see what's here. You're gonna have to probably create I'm logged in right now, Jim K Developer. So, you're gonna have to create an account though. at a minimum. But you know, something to get used to if you're interested. I should spend more time with this myself, but just another option to like create an icon, and obviously there's others as well. You know, like there's you know, Adobe Photoshop. There's all kinds of different design tools that you can use. But I was just wanting to create a simple favicon and icon, and we just did that in Paint, right? Okay, let's see if we can move through this a little quicker now. So we got through the kind of the stuff that I really felt, you know, that'd be best for me to really spend a little time on. But here's our different sections, and like we seen that, you know, since we kind of we used that Vercel, the V0, you know, since I had that prompt, it kind of created these exact ones. So the good thing about that, you know, do create, you know, get a professional image of yourself, you know, or a logo if you want. It's always kind of best to do an image if you can. And like I said, I guess I mentioned it here somewhere. Was that early on about not doing, you know, just a review? Probably best not to use a personal phone number. And I would create a separate email. But here's everything else. I don't see anything that I really feel like I need to go through here. You can just read through this. Creating screenshots, you know, sometimes that could be a challenge. So what you can kind of do on that sometimes. So let me pull up that pizza one real quick. Now in this, using this portfolio here, so here's like, let's just say you did your pizza thing, right? I wouldn't put the pizza thing first here, but put your best stuff first, right? Whatever that may be. You know, like I think Belleville Running Club, you know, most students did a pretty good job on that. But so here, let's just, I'm not going to use that one though. I'm just going to use this build a pizza thing here for this one. So one thing you do here, so kind of, this is kind of set up for an image. So if I kind of right click here and do an inspect on this, as you can see, if I kind of highlight this, this is like portfolio image, the size over here. If you look on the right hand side where that was, it's saying 332 by 250, right above to where that is. So you kind of need an image somewhat similar to that size, right? So one thing you can kind of do here on that, right? So that's going to be what? A little bit wider, you know, a little kind of rectangular. So let's see what we can do for that. And maybe some of you are a lot better at this than me, right? I might be doing this the hard way. But I'm trying to put an image here relevant to the project, right? So if I come here to build a pizza, you're not going to get all of it. Well, let's just see. What the heck? Maybe that's a little too much. I think that's a little too much. Let's do this. Let me do a snipping tool here. Let's just do this. And I don't know if if you're using Windows, you should definitely have the snipping tool. And if when you do, it should go in your pictures folder, and there should be a screenshots folder under that, right? So that's where that would go by default. Okay, so I'm going to copy that. Actually, what I'm going to do, I have it right here. I'm going to right click and open this with Paint. So what did we say? Like 332 by 250? Was that what it was? Let's see if we can get back to there again. Right click inspect. We click on, oh, we got to click on this. No, it was here. So 332 by 250. So let's see what we can do with this. If I go ahead and change this, I want to do 332. So let's see how much this stretches this. See, this is what I was saying before, since you're doing a different number. 332, and then that. So what you have to do is click that, then you can change this. But it's going to, it's going to kind of stretch this certain way. Yeah. Not too bad. So now we got that. So I'm going to build a pizza. No, not build a pizza. This is our portfolio. This is portfolio 2. We don't want screenshots. I'll rename that to pizza. When did I do that? All right. So let's get in here now. Let's find where we can change that. So in here, there's different projects. Project 1 was the e-commerce thing. So what we're wanting to do here on this, get rid of that. We just put an image tag, right? And our source is going to be that images, the one I just created, the pizza one, right? Images, pizza. And probably want to call this a pizza app. Good enough. Pizza app image. How about that? And so if we go down to our portfolio, here's build a pizza. Maybe it could look a little better. And like I said, probably many of you are better at this than I am. So something to work with. You're not going to have to do a whole bunch of these, and just do one for the different one. Maybe like this is like got 3 different ones, so you can just kind of create some screenshots or whatever to get it. Something there. Okay. What else did I want to mention? Oh, one thing I did want to mention, really didn't talk about it. You're going to need a resume for this. So, might take a little bit of work to work on a resume too. I'll send you something separate on a resume. So just kind of want to mention a few things about that. And actually probably more than just send you something. I guess I should really create a separate video on it. It depends on, and this is my personal opinion. And as far as resumes, people have one, people who, advise on resumes have different feelings about it. Sometimes they say always you should put your work experience first, but I'm a little different in that I just feel like it kind of depends. And if you've been working somewhere where you've been for a while, if you've switched around jobs a lot, I wouldn't put that. Or if you're only somewhere for, you just started 3 months ago somewhere, I would not necessarily put that. Or, if you have just very, very little experience, working at all, I wouldn't put that first either. I put some of the kind of the web skill stuff. And so I'll do something separate on that, but just did kind of wanted to mention that. It's different though for resumes, especially if you got a job where anything to do with you're having to organize things, any kind of team leads, a management that you have some levels of responsibility besides just things that you can really find a way to craft into something showing some levels of responsibility, then we should get that probably up to the top of your resume. Otherwise, I'd push some of that to lower parts and down lower in your resume. But I'll go ahead, like I said, I'll send you something on that. Plus, I'll do a short video on that as well. But you are going to have to include a resume, either a downloadable or interactive one, for this project. The other thing just really want to discuss is the Jot form. It has it right here, but you're going to have to create a form, and you just go in here, the Jot form, and sign up, create an account. It's free. That way you can actually create a little form, and you'll be able to cut and paste the code right in there. It'll send you an email based if somebody filled something out. Okay. Let's see. I guess that's about it. Now, just make sure, send me a link to your web portfolio, the IO one, right? And then also send me a link to your repository itself. Actually, I can figure it out. You just really have to send. That's pretty basic. I can just click on the link there. But basically, send me your link to your new repository, because it's not part of our student coursework stuff. So I will need a link to your repository. So kind of went through a lot. I hope some of this helps you. Please let me know if you have any questions, and have a great day. Thanks.